All right, today we are going way, way out there. Miles out to sea, actually, to a workplace that's both this incredible marvel of green energy and one of the most dangerous environments you can possibly imagine. We're going to go inside an offshore wind turbine and really unpack the insane engineering it takes, not just to build these things, but to keep them running safely. You know, this quote from a renewable energy engineer, Jackson Williams, really hits the nail on the head. There is no typical day. Things are always changing. Now, in a lot of jobs, changing is just part of the workflow. But for an offshore engineer, that constant change isn't just about solving a puzzle. It's about surviving in a place where the environment is literally trying to stop you. I mean, just look at this. When your office is a tower shooting hundreds of feet into the sky, surrounded by nothing but open ocean. Yeah, that phrase, things are always changing, takes on a whole new, much heavier meaning. This is way beyond your typical engineering job. This is engineering on the absolute edge. So, what kind of person actually works out here? It's not just about being a brilliant engineer, right? You need serious physical endurance, a super calm head when everything is going sideways, and this almost fanatical commitment to safety. These engineers, they're truly a different breed, because their office is one of the most extreme places on the planet. Okay, let's put this into perspective for a second. Think about a big solar farm. Maybe it's got, 90,000 panels covering 180 acres. That's a huge, impressive operation for sure. But here's the key. It's on solid ground. Now, let's contrast that with an offshore wind farm. You're miles from anywhere, you're fighting off corrosive salt that eats metal for breakfast, and the very ground beneath your feet, the platform, is always moving. It's a whole other ballgame when it comes to complexity and risk. So, before an engineer can even think about doing their job, they have to overcome the first, most powerful obstacle, the open ocean itself. And when we say hostile, we mean it. You've got powerful winds, massive waves that can pop up with hardly any warning. Everything, and I mean everything, is being constantly attacked by corrosive saltwater. And maybe the scariest part? You are completely, utterly isolated. If something goes wrong, help isn't minutes away, it's hours. So how do you fight back against all that chaos? Well, your first weapon is data, predictive analytics. Every single trip out there depends on super detailed marine weather forecasts. It all boils down to a very strict, very simple go/no-go protocol. If the wind, the waves, or the forecast are even slightly outside the safety window, the trip is off. Period. No exceptions. Okay, so the weather gives you the green light. The ship makes it out to the turbine. Now comes one of the most nail-biting moments of the entire job, getting from a boat that's pitching and rolling onto that stationary tower. And this right here, this is what it looks like. It is all about timing and precision. The boat is rising and falling with the waves, and the crew has to nail that transfer at the perfect moment. Think about it. One slip, one tiny miscommunication, and the consequences are, well, they're catastrophic. Now, this is not some wild leap of faith. It's an incredibly well-engineered procedure. First, they check the conditions again. Then, they use amazing tech, like these motion-compensated gangways. Think of them as smart bridges that use hydraulics to cancel out the movement of the sea, creating a stable path. And the whole time, there's nonstop, crystal-clear communication between the vessel and the team on the platform. Every single step is planned, drilled, and rehearsed. All right, you're on the platform, safe from the water. Now what? Now you go up. We're trading the dangers of the sea for the dangers of the sky. And this should give you a sense of the scale we're talking about. It is a grueling vertical climb, sometimes hundreds of feet, straight up inside what's essentially a narrow steel tube. And the number one risk here is pretty obvious, right? A fall from this high is not survivable. So the solution is all about building a system of redundancies, layers and layers of safety. Of course, you have mandatory harnesses and shock-absorbing lanyards clipped into secure anchor points. The ladders themselves often have fall arrest systems built right in, so if you slip, it catches you instantly. There's a strict two-person rule. Nobody ever works up there alone. And maybe most importantly, they have pre-planned and rehearsed rescue plans. If something goes wrong, the response isn't improvised, it's immediate and drilled. Okay, so we've dealt with the ocean, we've dealt with the height, but some of the most lethal dangers inside a turbine are the ones you can't even see. I'm talking about massive amounts of high-voltage electricity. So before anyone even thinks about touching an electrical component, they perform the single most critical safety procedure, Lockout/Tagout, or LOTO for short. And it's one of those elegantly simple ideas that's just brilliant. It's a physical way to make sure a piece of equipment is totally powered down, and it is impossible to turn back on until the engineer who's working on it removes their own personal lock. And this is what it looks like in practice. That padlock physically stops anyone from flipping the switch. And the tag attached to it? It clearly states who is working, why it shut down, and when. It's a simple, unmistakable signal that is literally protecting that technician's life. But it doesn't even stop with LOTO. There are more layers. Engineers use specially insulated tools. They wear voltage-rated PPE, personal protective equipment. And then comes the final, absolutely non-negotiable step. You always test for live power with a voltage meter before you touch anything. The mantra is simple: isolate, then verify. So all these specific procedures for the ocean, for heights, for electricity, they're all absolutely vital. But what really holds it all together, the thing that makes it all work, is something bigger. It's a complete top-to-bottom culture of safety. Because safety isn't just about having the right gear or ticking boxes on a checklist. It's a living process, a continuous loop. You can see it here. You identify the risks, you analyze them, you figure out how to treat them, and then you just keep monitoring and reviewing over and over. It's about being proactive, not just reacting when something goes wrong. And how do you build that proactive mindset? Through relentless, constant training. On one side, you see a drill in a controlled environment, a pool. This is probably part of the mandatory Global Wind Organization training. And on the other side, you see that exact training being put into practice out in the real world. It's this cycle of training in a safe space and then executing in a dangerous one that builds the muscle memory and confidence to do this job. And that really brings us to the ultimate point of all this. After all the complex engineering, the predictive analytics, the high-tech gear, the goal behind every single protocol is incredibly simple. It's just about making sure every person who heads out to these amazing structures gets to go home safely at the end of the day. And that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? The work happening out there on the ocean is right on the cutting edge of our energy future. But as we keep pushing the boundaries with more and more extreme technology, the real challenge is going to be making sure our safety engineering keeps up to protect the essential workers who make it all happen. So what do you think? How will we engineer safety for the next generation?